Copper does not need more uses. Almost every video about Minecraft's game design show at some point or another proposes changing or making a recipe to include copper. This is a fair assessment, and I'm not going to claim copper is useful in this video since we all know that isn't the case. You can make stuff with it, particularly the neutrals and tails decorative pancakes. Let me just pour a little honey on them. You guys should try this, this is incredible. But they are simply wrong when they say the usage for copper should be its inclusion more crafting. Do me a favor if you're up to it. Type up a comment now telling me what you do with copper. Don't post it or edit it because I reply to comments too fast. Just wait, and once the video's over you can tell me why and if you still think about it that way. If you didn't write anything, that's fine. I'm not gonna force you. I'm just making sure you don't find a fortress near your nether portal the next time you need one. If you did write something, you're a cool individual. Up top. Don't put your screen, please. Before we talk about copper, let's talk about game design. Minecraft is a game that doesn't work under traditional design ideas on a fundamental level. You're supposed to be able to do things in thousands of ways, because freedom is important to Minecraft, and not in a way where you can really argue a certain type of playstyle is expected. Mojang may tell you otherwise, and I think that's an erroneous way to look at it. What? Did you just turn into a cat? Did you just turn that 45 degrees? That is not what I mean! Traditional game design says this. Call me Ishmael. Send me a hold on, that's Moby Dick. Let's not use quotes. Skipping over the basics. Games work on repetition, doing the same things repeatedly yet still keeping the experience fun. This means almost all games are composed of loops that have loops inside them, and sometimes they involve loopy loops, loop-de-loops, time loops. Most traditional games perfectly show this through the concept of levels. Minecraft's freedom-centered design means its loop is often designed by the player, but often it involves 3 steps: gathering resources, building, using. This description breaks a little by itself, so feel free to change stage 2 for fighting enemies, mining, crying because you're gonna find a certain resource, etc. They all involve collecting resources, such as minerals to make specific tools or materials to build with. The game's progression, and often criticized element of the game's design, is tiny versions of these loops. It's hard to show loops in Minecraft visually because there are no circles in the game, so bear with me. And note that nothing I propose here will serve towards fixing that issue, because the game's broader issues cannot be solved with one item alone. The game needs a heavy overhaul for that. And while we're at it, can I request proper freaking filters? It makes me angry that every single redstone contraption has to make these silly filters instead of giving it its own dedicated block, and like I understand why they don't add in, since you can still do them in the correct way, but that doesn't excuse the incredible quality of life change that this one single item could. Sorry, I'm getting sidetracked. The reason why Minecraft's progression is underwhelming is directly related to what I want to explain, and if you're familiar with the topic, you've definitely heard the argument that old Minecraft used to be better. This is honestly an exaggeration to me, but they are speaking facts when they explain how the game lost part of its charm with the devaluation of every single resource. The game back then was almost carefully designed so that your weapons and armor would break along with your sanity. This meant players would periodically have to stop what they were doing to go on another mining run so that they don't lose the benefits from their previously obtained weapons and items, which would break without enchantments and particularly mending. This directly translated to diamonds, gold and iron always being a limited resource for the player and thus feeling valuable. Fast forward to the modern day, and I want you to keep an open mind when I say this, but diamond has become less valuable than iron. And if you thought, yeah, fair, you played Minecraft a fair share. You have the experience of creating a single diamond armor with mending and calling that a day. Someone behind the screen is American probably because they traded instead, but whatever. Meanwhile, you pursue the creation of iron and gold farms for several different reasons, particularly the fact that most important resources obtained from iron and gold eventually run out. For gold, bartering is definitely a part, and you can't get many building and useful blocks from it. Golden rails are egregiously expensive, and that's another potential use. But my bet goes to golden carrots, since eating is permanent, and they so happen to be the big food item, so said the rabbit guy. You're motivated to constantly obtain gold, which you can turn into golden carrots easily. Though, again, trading laughs in the face of these golden Am I okay? I should really go to bed and continue this too. Iron is definitely the clearer example. Not only does iron trade directly for emeralds, which can get you like my left kidney if Mojang decided to put it as a trade in the game. Don't know why they would, but villagers would sure sell it. So my usage for copper is trades with this new villager called the Black Market Out. Iron can get you anvils. You need a ridiculous amount to light up a beacon or several. Almost every redstone contraption depends on it to some extent, as it is included in the recipes for hoppers, crafters, pistons, and tripwire hooks. It's all things you can't move around if they are part of a conceptually static build. I hope you're noticing a theme here. I don't want to call attention to the number of uses, gold only has 3, but what I want to call attention to is the frequency at which you need resources obtained from iron and gold, because anvils, training materials, and golden carrots will eventually run out. This is what I call a sink. not one of these. I mean a usage for the item that has to happen recurrently, and the reason why diamonds were valuable in their era. Their value was a good reward, such as the overpowered diamond armor, which had to be obtained many times. Players needed a reliable source, or at least a stockpile, which made the resource feel important. Now, with a few mending books and about 40 diamonds, the resource stops being relevant, to the point where sillier early game items need to be obtained in greater quantities throughout a playthrough. Yes, by this logic, cow meat and leather are more valuable than diamond. Let me be clear that value is not equal nor proportional to rarity in any way. Should it be? Maybe, but you'd probably end up taking away from the freedom aspect of Minecraft. There will always be faster ways to do several things, and removing this freedom on any substantial capacity would be disruptive. TLDR, how dare you insult my pet cow Cindy? A similar logic applies to mending. Mending is probably the worst addition to Minecraft's game loop, but when you consider playing without it, you realize finding diamonds cannot be either fun nor reliable in any way that justifies having to take periodic mining trips. Remember street mining? Yeah, fun times. This is a reason why a sink shouldn't be too bothersome. It's boring to repeatedly do the same activities in most situations, and it should not seem with gold and iron since you can farm those resources automatically. And while we're at it, this is the reason why building is currently a rewarding playstyle, where any resources you get for the activity, in this case blocks, ends up being permanently depleted to become part of the structure. Building has the potential to turn any game resource into a sink, but that's pretending every player is a builder, which isn't quite the case. I built this incredible house. What do you think? Yeah, I put the structure in. I'm not a particularly good builder. Experience, I think, is definitely the most evident sink you do in Minecraft nowadays. You always need EXP to keep your tools and armor on high durability, as well as for the anvil. Though I'd argue that design-wise, Lapis Lazuli showcases sinks better overall. It's just that enchanting tables went out of fashion since villages went brrr and stole the runway. So now you know what copper needs. Not a use, but a sink. And the sink has to be useful because otherwise no one would use the resource. Here's a lengthy pause so you may all laugh at Lapis. Simply putting copper in more crafting recipes doesn't justify how common it is or how little usage it has, because one copper has the perceived value of, well, a Venezuelan bolivar. It's an easy resource with no objective. Some people have suggested to grab the probabilities of copper and decrease them until they are as rare as emeralds. That would work, but all you do is make the usage opportunities less. Where your aim shouldn't be to make players have less copper and thus feel the value of its derivatives is higher, you should want for copper to have a consistent use that is 1. Not obligatory to game progression, for obvious reasons. 2. Not replacing the functionality of other game features. If an item has too many uses, that is good. The argument of replacing certain recipes to use certain materials could work on certain contexts, but you wouldn't really solve the problem with such a shoddy method. The most you could argue would be allowing beacons to be powered with copper, which should happen in addition to the sink addition I'm about to suggest. 3. Not expensive. Since copper itself is about as cheap as the animation of modern conservative cartoons,
I'm the old norm. I want normal beer.
Whatever sink you come out with shouldn't require items that are obtained further in the game's progression. It would be silly to have copper be useless until you get the dragon egg, since it's available within the first few minutes of the game. You can suggest sinks that use a lot of copper, but not sinks whose purpose would be something that doesn't happen until later on. That said, imagine you could cook the dragon egg with a copper rod. I'm just saying, this isn't a sink, but a hard-boiled dragon egg. Think of the possibility. 4. Not cheap. If your usage involves a copper-powered teleporter, you're making it too useful. The goal is to add an option for players rather than something that you'd obviously do. It's like the Elytra. I love these wings. Do you think they taste like chicken? But they far surpass any other method of transportation to the point where it invalidates everything else. I don't want them to change the feature, but I'd like for further features to not fall into the same pitfall. And lastly, number 5. I'm pretty sure there's another criteria. I'll remember when I shower 5 days before this video is supposed to go up, because that's what happens to me, and I'll be unamused returning to this part to record extra Boys Warrior. And if you're hearing this, that didn't happen. Yippee! Designing for Minecraft is difficult because the game has freedom holding a higher priority than any other element of game design, and this is the nature of the sandbox. But Minecraft is the most exaggerated example. People think that they can fix Minecraft without realizing the appeal is the fact that it's completely broken design-wise, because it is the player's job to put these pieces together into their own version of the experience. What people often mistakenly relate to this is features having severe issues. That's a real problem that would need solving, like sniffer flowers being confoundedly unpolished, or inventory management. That's probably one of Minecraft's larger issues, so it's easy to think that you have to solve these issues when you suggest implementing a usage for items. That would be akin to putting a patch on a pair of jeans because it's too tight. You have to revamp the tightness, really. Not. This metaphor sucks. What I want to say is that when you suggest changes for Minecraft, it's important that you remember there is no need to also fix the game. So this brings me to my great idea. I don't say this is the thing for copper, only one potential possibility, and I decided not to take a page out of Mojang's book, and instead I learned to data pack, and I'm going to probably end up dropping the channel because my ambitious ass won't get enough bread to justify spending a whole ass week in this, but I'm stupid, so I did it anyways. I already know how to regular code, and learning this won't be as hard as—
Why? Won't you let me do anything?
Ooh, what if I made it a paid product on my Patreon?
Dowsing rods.
I propose dowsing rods as a thing for copper, where you can create dowsing rods which, in tandem with the block below it, can direct you towards the direction of the nearest mineral of the block you are dowsing for. The radius for this is based on the amount of copper you hit the dowsing rods with consecutively, wasting the copper in the process. This basically allows you to potentially trade copper for any resources in the game. Now, ideally you'd actually get to hit the rods, but due to Minecraft's data pack limitations, I'm just throwing it in this footage, which is kind of anticlimactic to be fair. These can be super useful to scan a large area for minerals that you can find, but doesn't really replace regular mining, as not only do you need to do your share of regular mining first in order to get the block to douse for, but the cost can be steep if you'd like to douse a large area. Counterpoint, this makes mining for ancient debris with a well-planned strategy genuinely fun, given that you have enough copper. Cooking the copper is a bit annoying since it would normally take 10 minutes to cook a stack, so I decided that copper is as easy to cook as it is to find, spinning its cooking to just about over 4 minutes per stack. This matches closer to what the resource's higher drop rate is when normally mined. Isn't it super satisfying to see the blast furnace funnel through these? Before you try it, you might think that dowsing tribalizes mining, given that it's evidently a superior strategy, but the fact remains that you'll only get a vague idea for where to mine, meaning you'll likely end up digging chunks around the doused area, which actually feels rather natural, Minecrafty even, for whatever that means. There's also a natural, non-customized reward for finding your own dowsing strategy, since you get better results from it. And again, because I'm not lazy like Mojang, I decided to bother implementing a few more uses, such as letting you douse for suspicious sand and gravel in case you're too anxious to sort it out yourself, or if you're having trouble finding beehives, which, I mean, you can also take the chance. It's sort of expensive though.
Keep in mind that the data pack is more like a proof of concept than anything, because it humanly douses iteratively rather than radially. Ideally, it would find the nearest store, but that would take a ridiculous amount of commands that I don't really have time to figure out. As it stands, it's already taking about 6 million commands in order to scan a 64 block radius, so it's not optimized too well. Take this as your warning that dowsing 16 chunks may be a little slow. Heck, you will likely encounter a bug or two. The only way I ultimately managed to make it look like dowsing rods is through using custom entity models, which means you'd need a mod in order for this to look good. Now, you don't need the mod in order for the data pack to work. That one works without any single mod, and you may download it and play it without it, but I do recommend you get the mod so the dowsing rods actually look like dowsing rods. But besides little technicalities like that, due to me being completely new at data packing, the gameplay experience is close to the desired one. Also, I'm not sure if it works on multiplayer. So, if you want to check it out, you can, but I think I've done enough to convince you on copper not needing more uses, but rather a single use that turns the item into a real resource. Now to wait for that one video that will eventually come out explaining why everything I've ever said about Minecraft is wrong, even though we all know in our hearts that fried dragon egg is the best feature suggestion that has, ever been spoken.